Yeah, son. You know what I'm saying, son? Bop, bop, bop. Bop, 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 bop. Anyways, guys, this is AomIsHot22. And I know I have not been on YouTube for a while. I do apologize. So, essentially, I've been locked out of my account. Now, I do plan on returning. I've been in Vegas. I've been in Macau. I've been in LA playing live poker recently. Yeah, basically, I'm not good enough for the online game, so I've taken my talents out to the live casino. And again, yep, just trying to make some money. So, without further ado, we will get into a little session that I just played on WSOP.com. Let's go.
Yo, man, what's good, son?
Yo, man, you know what I'm saying? Hey everybody, this is AomIsHot22. So we are getting into another video. Yes, post the big blind. Yeah, I wanted to continue with 500. However, it's not running at the moment. It is I don't know what time it is. 4:30 p.m. minus 4. It's like 4:30 p.m. Macau time. I don't know what time it is Vegas. I'm in Vegas at the moment. I guess it's like midnight-ish. Yep, just gonna play around a bit against 2.25x. The 9-3 is going to be a marginal continue. However, once the small blind goes ahead and 3 bets, actually, I think it was just 4-handed in this spot. I think this was the cutoff. We're going to complete the Queen 10. I don't think we really have much of a frequency for raise, and I'm pure checking the flop given the deuces advantage from the big blind, and just a pretty easy way to play my range. I don't have basically the UTG here is representing a lot of overpairs, and they're going to interact with the Broadway region quite a bit, and I'm just going to have a bunch of random shit. Like, his EV is significantly higher than mine, and I don't think we gain anything strategically by constructing some sort of a flop betting range. In terms of our continues, I think our weakest continue here is going to be very close to a 10. It's very hard to be defending worse than a 10 here. I'm going to go with the flop check. Occasionally it's so hard to have bluffs here as well. I think we kind of just need to bet a sizing that structured around our range. But, I mean, with the four-way dynamic, I'm never having enough bluffs here on the river. I could bet min, actually, but I kind of think $3 will make a bit more against his sort of 3s to 9s region that just gets a bit sticky, and it's like, oh, fuck this guy, I'm calling, even though I clearly don't have enough bluffs. Yeah, good fold by him anyways. Kind of a weird situation. It's pretty hard to model as well. It's not a spot that I get into a whole lot, and I don't currently have 3 or 4-way solvers in these spots, so, I mean, maybe, I guess they're coming out with them. Yeah, just going range on ace-10 4 versus most players for a quarter. Seems like a very easy strategy to implement. Nothing too difficult about it. However, for these YouTube videos, I could try to play more complicated strategies and use a few more sizings in different situations. That might be a good idea. It could be more fun as well. However, I'll probably just continue upon this sort of simplified flop strategy path that I've been on with the 2 weaker players in the blinds. I think 6-5 is a reasonable mistake to be folding pre-flop. The Queen 9, pretty clear pitch. I think this hand is just going to end up having a small bit of EV opening the button, and we're never going to be exploited for opening at too high of a frequency. So I think it's just we're going to have to 3-bet that very often. Just making some question marks about that guy's frequency so I can remember if it's the same guy. I've seen him 3-bet a couple times now. I'm very happy to just remove the note if I see that's not the case. However, now the ace deuce here is supposed to be pitched optimally. I think it's going to be hard for the big blind in these games, to find a 20% 3-bet frequency. The ace-7 we're going to defend. I'm going to c-bet this about 25% of the time for a 2/3 sizing. Rolling 75, we're going to go with the check. Getting squeezed here, we're going to go with the pitch. Pure checking flop. Turn, there are a couple of strategic options. However, I tend to just go 2/3 or overbet as opposed to using some of the smaller bets. So this hand is going to get pure checked. River, we end up blocking a bunch of like deuce X if we have like king deuce. 3-2 suited, which mostly is supposed to get pitched. However, when we're blocking the ace high region and we're unblocking their bluffing region, we need to basically pure check this combo on the river. If we had king deuce, we would always block. I think the blocker things are very, very relevant when we're blocking their ace high calling range, which is just going to be a pure call against like a river block basically for them in that node. It's not good to be blocking most of their calling range there and unblocking again various bluffs that they can have. Interesting to see what he checked down. So he did check down ace 10 high. Very cool. This board, technically we're supposed to have a bunch of overbets, but again, I'm playing a very simplified flop strategy, and we're going to 14 big blinds. We go a bit larger here. So we could play some one interesting counter is to be overbetting the ace king at some small frequency. It ends up really hurting the EV of some of his calls, like exactly king, queen, and 7-8 that is a double gutter. These sort of things. Here I'm just going to bet range. However, when I am betting ace king on the turn, I tend to want to have a spade. I'm going to mix this though, something like 10%, given that it's button versus big blind. But it does play quite good as far as counters. Turn, we end up mixing the kings. However, I think the the king of spade, king of club combo will allow us to bet a little bit more often. Rolling 66, going to go with the check. Versus half pot, I'm just going to call. We're just beating too many random like queen nines and that sort of thing. Obviously, that's poor in terms of his river probing strategy. Half pot's not a very efficient sizing for his range. It's a situation where he ends up having a flush advantage. He ends up having a straight advantage. He ends up having a pretty large like nut advantage. We're going to call kings here. I don't think we're mixing any raise. And obviously our blockers here are just incredibly good. We're blocking king 10 of spades and we're blocking king queen suited, which is really, really good. We could argue that the guy doesn't actually have enough bluffs to begin with, and he just has all the offsuit. Like our blockers are ridiculously good in this situation to be calling. We have like the nut blockers to be calling. I kind of think on the turn though he's just not gonna reopen to that sizing with enough bluffs. We're also playing 100 NL. Man, fucking hell. Fucking hell. Okay, let's see. So, yeah, I think I'm just gonna pitch river at 100 NL, even though we do have the king of spades and the king of clubs. Like, I think I'm just gonna pitch. It's like hard to for it. Like once he ends up reopening the turn, I think he just like reopens the turn to like many of these like queen X 10X combos around that sizing, and I don't think he has like enough bluff reopens in that sizing, basically. Ace 8's like semi-marginal against this, however, I'll just peel. I'm just going to bet $3, go range for small sizing. However, we could play like a different strategy against the small blind. I personally won't. Ace 2 of clubs with the ace and 2 of clubs, just almost pure checking this flop. I think I'm not even going to roll. I think I'm just going to pure check. Facing the half pot bet. This is cut off. I wonder if there's much of a continued frequency here. I'm going to hold. Versus min, this is really mostly a continue as a call. I think with the 10 of diamonds, but... And this is just our weakest ace. We need to have some aces in the betting range. I mean, in the checking range at a very, very low frequency. In this situation, so I am going to have an ace in the checking range at a very low frequency. Specifically, the ace of clubs there is quite nice, and ace 2 as well. Ends up being pretty good. Just going to kind of like bet a sizing that allows a recreational player to make a mistake with various draws in his range. And against 72, let me play this spot real quick. Let's see. 16 combos. Okay, 29% of the time. 60, 42. We have the 10 of diamonds. I'm going to check back ace, king of spades here on the turn. We end up having better spades and that sort of thing. It's just going to bluff catch really frequently. If he's using the block sizing too often with specifically 7x, then sure, it kind of sucks. I think just not having a heart in my hand is pretty good. Yeah, so he floated queen jack without a heart, which is too loose, obviously. I think the 10 of diamonds is just such a powerful blocker here. I think he'll end up having exactly queen jack fairly often. The problem is that he called like $34 on the turn, so he literally doesn't have any other bluffs. I like the 10 of diamonds. I think I need to be good here about like 28% of the time. Oh, man. Ah, fucking hell. I'm actually going to fold. Oh, man. Oh, man. 10 combos. Fucking hell. If you just found like... Oh. Man, that's a tough fold as well. Because, like... The thing is, like, recreational players, they'll end up just... and the 10 of diamonds is such a powerful blocker, and I don't have very many flop 3-bets with flush draws. It's really, really, really hard to fold on the river when I hold the 10 of diamonds in that exact action sequence. Essentially, I don't know exactly how often I need to be good, but I need to be good somewhere around 28-29% of the time. And it's like, they'll have queen jack occasionally, but queen jack of diamonds won't be in there because I will just mostly shove flop. Some of the queen jack of heart spades will 3-bet pre-flop as well. Queen jack here, we're going to continuation bet at a very low frequency. 70 is going to be a check. Not very low frequency, but just the 4x advantage makes us want to play a lot more defensively. Against that size, we're going to continue with 2 overs and a backdoor straight draw. Turn, I think we end up getting to have some frequency of leads. 76 on the RNG, I'm going to go with the check. Versus the insta check back. I think this is just a hand in our range that obviously we need to be bluffing this hand. It's just more so a question of, like, to what sizing. I think, oh man, I don't know how blocking ace-jack and ace-queen actually are relevant. I don't know if those things are relevant at all. I'm actually going to RNG sizing. So 38 is going to be, like, middle of the road sizing. Oh, man. I'm trying to just think. Okay, I'm going to go against the RNG. I was supposed to bet something closer to, like, 2/3-ish, which I don't really like having many 2/3-ish pot bets on the river in that spot if he doesn't slow play enough quads on the turn. I was kind of just doing a thing where, like, the lower the number was, the bigger the bet was. The higher the number was, the more often I would take a passive line, which either means checking or betting small. But I decided to go against that. There's something else I was talking about that. Oh yeah, about like that 10 of diamond hand. It's just really hard for him to actually like call the turn. And then like let's say he arrives to the river with like 13 combos of queen jack. Like maybe he doesn't even bluff 100% of his combos. I'm gonna just check my entire range on this board. It's just such a stupid high EV board for the small blind. And I'm going to come close to range check on this flop as well. So it's interesting that he even has a lead on this turn. It'll be good to like take some notes on what this means. This is definitely a pitch against that sizing. Obviously calling. So, okay. This could be a bet here, certainly, the ace-10. I'm just going to pitch without a diamond. It's not that tight. And the queen-10 should... It can kind of go either way from MP, but yeah, I'll go with the open given the weaker player. 2 weaker players. 3 weaker players, excuse me. Actually not. It just becomes a very clear open. Priority bluffs. Yeah, not going to be this one. Not 10 of club, queen of diamond. Eight, 9, 4. We can end up having some big bets with this combo. I'll be betting big with this exact combo about half of the time. But I like playing very defensively in this spot. And big bets are just going to be the 3/4 pot. Well, I'll basically play 3/4 pot or check on this particular board texture. Blind versus blind. I don't have very many big bets anywhere on flop in my entire 6-max game tree. However, that's one of the few situations I do. We're going to raise this about 25-30% of the time. Going with the call. Going with the check. Instead of like trying to pick exact blocker combos and that sort of thing and using the 9 of spades and trying to say this, that, and whatever, I'm going to play a strategy where I just check raise my flushes half of the time. Oh, wait, he's a fish. Why am I even playing this strategy? Excuse me. I was just going to use the RNG and raise half the time and call half the time. However, he's just a fish, and I'm just going to kind of bet a sizing that I think a rec can call quite often. And I'm going to almost check range, but not quite check range. Okay, there we go. Going about a 4th pot on the flop. Turn, I just don't think ace-king without a spade barrels too often. I want to add a bit of barrel. And if they don't have enough slow play flushes, I kind of like 35. Ah, man. It just sucks because I really can't be check calling this hand on the turn. Okay, I'm going to go with the check. However, I think 35 is a bit too high to barrel this hand. Ah, man. Fucking hell. I actually could use this as a check raise occasionally as well. Just given that I don't have a club, we need to have some club bluffs occasionally, but most of those are going to come from like the ace-5 and the ace-3, and that in and of itself is already going to make it dicey. I'm going to roll a very low frequency of raise on the turn. Okay, 86, I'm just going to pitch. Yep. One reason why I'm raising a bit more is because I'm supposed to be slow playing more flushes in that spot. However, I think the frequency of flush that he actually calls on the flop is reduced, so I can end up raising more of my flushes on the turn, which allows me to go for a few more like thin, or go for a few more bluff raises if I have more value, and that just means that in the node where I'm check calling, I'm slightly weaker. However, I don't think that's that big of a deal, given that I think his flop calling range is weaker. So on average, this is going to be obviously a check. So he's bottom of range on river by far. It's a very clear bluff with the sixes. Good to take down that note. I'm going to mix bet and check here. 81 is going to be a check back. King 4 will 3-bet occasionally. 71 is going to be a call. Way under bluffing. BB. River probe. I'm going to mix a hint of raise in here with the queen 9. A 48 will go with the call. And obviously folding the king 4. Just blocking a bunch of his folding range. The king and the 4 of clubs are really bad. Also unblocking a bunch of his just reasonable bets and stuff. A lot of his clubs will end up checking back if he plays that sort of a strategy. River against the check. I'm going to actually just bet $8. I don't think he constructs the check raising range here correctly, and I think he ends up like just betting something like a queen a lot on the river, and he'll just have a lot of misses, and then occasionally just something like Jack X. I could be wrong in doing that. If he doesn't have much Jack X at all, then it's a bit dicey, but whatever. Way under probe, way under bluffing, OP river probe. The ace-9 can just fold flop without a heart. We continue a bunch of hands like Jack-10, Queen-Jack with a heart at some frequency, raise those at some frequency. That makes sense. I don't know why I 3-bet so small. I think I just misclicked here. Very clear fold on the turn. He just should be barreling like 7s plus a 6 occasionally as well. I am floating a number of King X, however, depending on if I'm floating hands as wide as ace-9 without a heart on the flop, then he should be barreling definitely like a reasonable amount of 6x and all of his 7s plus at a very high frequency. This is going to mix the king jack. Yep, 83. Not too big 3-bet. Yeah, obviously pure continue here. Not going to have any raise without a club. No raise. It's also a very high EV board, so we don't want to have very many raises to begin with. We're 3-betting pocket 7s really often. Ace-7 suited, ace-queen, pocket queens, pocket aces. Obviously bottom of range on the turn. Even certain like weaker club draws continue, so or they mix. So, yep, that's going to have to fold. I wonder how long we're in this video for already. 22 minutes. It's right around the time I kind of want to have for these videos. So I'll sit out next big blind on all these tables. Yeah, very clear fold. We're bottom of range. In addition to being bottom of range, he's just leading into a range that has king, queen at a pure frequency, jacks, 10s, 9s, aces, kings, queens, 8-7 suited, all these sort of hands. If he's developing leads in that spot, it's not going to be a very good strategy. It's good to also note that he's developing I can't spell leads on BB versus cutoff. It means his checking range is likely to be a slight bit weaker to significantly weaker in terms of the nut region. And when we make notes on that, like so many people on these sites or at these stakes, again, we're playing like very low stakes right now, like 50 cents a dollar and shit. People, and even at 1-2, even at 2-5, like even 2-5 on Poker Stars, but a little bit less so. They're a little bit smarter, or a lot smarter. They're like the toughest players in the world, actually. But the point is that people just front door too much good shit, and they don't slow play enough, and they don't have like the low frequency strong hand checks. And obviously, you get the odd guy that like realizes that and realizes that people are trying to exploit that at a certain level, so they do mix more of those in. But yeah. Yeah, it's very, very easy to exploit when people are front dooring too many good hands. And their checking ranges are fucked and stuff. And it begins with simple stuff. I mean, if you've seen my videos before, it begins with sort of like a simple idea of like, okay, like they check back ace 7-2, cutoff versus big blind. And like if they end up having checks, they should be checking hands like ace king, ace queen, ace jack at some frequency. When they don't, what do you do when you have like ace 10? You just like 2x pot, turn probe, and that sort of thing. And then they're forced to call with like all of their ace x on the turn, and then you gain a bunch of EV. Like if they're just kind of like checking back weak aces, but they're not checking back the right frequency of the other ace x, like specifically the other ace x is in. We're not having any leads on this texture. Yeah, look, and this guy's just like probably front door, like just probably like donking too many strong hands. Like, It's important to write probably. We don't want to say definitely, but this guy should start being really scared on the flop because you're just going to see a bunch of pocket sevens and tens in this guy's range, as well as like queens and jacks. So interesting. Interesting that he found a donk flop fold turn. Anyways, guys, this is AomIsHot22. Thank you for watching and peace out.